Hey everybody, it's Jeff from Cackle Hatchery. Are you thinking about buying some ducklings? Let's talk about some of the good things and maybe some of the not so good things about ducks, but we love ducks here at Cackle Hatchery. Some of the funny things that ducks can do, they're a great pet. They got a lot of personality. They make different sounds. They've got different looks. Different breeds have different color patterns. So ducks are a lot of fun. They do something called imprinting. So when they're first hatched out, and if you're around when they hatch out and they see you, they think you are their mother. So they're going to follow you. They're going to do everything you're doing. So they're great for kids to experience getting them when they're first hatched out. They're shipped in. Spend that time with them first couple of days, feeding, watering them, and cuddling them. And they're just going to follow you around. They're going to be in love with you. So that's one great thing about ducks and why they can be so much fun. And of course, again, like I said, they're just full of personality, So I don't know if you ever watched Friends, but they had a little white Pekin duck there on the show. So there's lots of shows that have pet ducks now. But anyway, they're a great addition to the backyard or the homestead. Or a pet for the kids. So there are some downsides to ducks. Ducks can be messy, and they're messy because they love water. They'll drink. Every time they eat, they drink. They use that to get the food down. They clean their teeth, and a lot of times they like doing this in the water. They'll find microbes and other stuff in the water that they sift out, and they actually eat that, and then they let the water pass out. So they can be real messy. They like to splash in the water between this with their bills, and they'll get in and flap around. They'll take baths in the water. They'll splash around. So that could be one downside. They can be messy. You got to have a little bit of space also for ducks. They require a little bit more space. And they do make a mess, so they can kill the grass off if you have a small coop. So ideally, once they start growing, you either have a small pond or a kiddie pool that they get to play in once they get their feathers in. So that will make them very, very happy. We do not encourage you to feed them on the back porch because they'll be hanging around the back porch a lot, and they eat a lot and drink a lot, and they're going to poop a lot. So you don't want that on your back porch. So that could also be a downside to having, ducks in your backyard. The biggest downside is that, they do need a lot of water. So certainly if you have the space and you can make a roaming area and you have a little swimming area for them, then things are going to be great, and that's going to work out well. So I get a question on how do you handle a baby duckling so you don't hurt them? Well, here's a trick that you can show your little kids. So you have, why don't you tell the kid, your child, to hold out your hand and then take your fingers and just kind of do this to their hand. They feel that? Okay, that's what the baby duck is going to feel like. So when you feel that, you can't jerk your hand away and let the duck fall, okay? So teach them that's all it's going to feel like. And then you're going to tell them and teach them that, hey, we're going to put it in a jail in your hand so they don't fall out and hurt themselves, okay? So hold your hand out. Remember, it's going to tickle a little bit. So you put the duck in their hand, and then I can't do it because I'm holding it, but you take their other hand, their right hand or whatever, and you put it over like this. Tell them to have the duck sticking out the hole, and you're not squeezing it. Show them not to squeeze. You're making a big jail so they can move around in there. They just can't get out, and they can stick their head out. So this is a good way to kind of teach your children how to hold a duck so it doesn't jump out and hurt itself. Tips for the day: keep them cackling. So that's a few pros and cons to being a beginner with ducklings. So let's cover the topic about what are ducks good for. And I guess we're assuming, grown ducks. So we'll talk a little bit about that. There's several breeds of ducks that are known to be a good butcher duck, meat duck. There's cultures and traditions of eating duck. Different people love duck, others don't. There's several breeds that, make a good carcass for a meat duck. White Pekin is probably at the very top of the list for a meat duck. So people, raise ducks to eat them. A lot of people, though, raise ducks for pets. And we covered that already a little bit on all the uniqueness around pets. But, pets, they love little ducklings, And another reason is for maybe egg production. There are, certain people that maybe have different allergies, and maybe they're not able to eat a regular chicken egg, and maybe the duck egg, for whatever reason, their bodies do well with. To me, they're a little bit rubbery to fry them or do something, but they're great in cakes and other things like that. So there's a big market for egg ducks. And some of that is in some of the ethnic groups too that prefer, duck eggs. So that's another reason to have ducks, for their eggs. Pest control, they're not, I would say, the best, but they do control a lot of, grasshoppers and other bigger insects around the place. They like to nibble in the grass and the dirt and the water, and they're going to try to catch insects. They're very funny trying to chase around a fly and all this type of thing. They're really comical watching them chase down an insect to eat it. Some people like ducks for their pond or their lake, either for a visual or to help keep activity on the water. Sometimes it can keep down certain algae and growth. They stir up the water and keep it moved around. On the other hand, though, too, with them pooping a lot, they also create some of that same problem that the pond might already have with some algae and growth going on. Breeding them. Maybe you are, really passionate about ducks, and you really want to help preserve some of these old-time duck breeds that many have worked on over the years and have been recognized for a long, long time. So maybe you want to keep them improved, keep the genetics strong. You might be wanting to show them at sanctioned shows or just at your local fair or state fair even. The husbandry of that might be the reason for doing that. A lot of people have a 4-H or FFA project, and they're interested in using ducks in that project. So that's another reason people might start out with ducks. So showing them or exhibitioning them, they're pretty easy to show at. Almost every county has in the late summer, they'll have a county fair or the state fair going on. And it's a good way to get kids acclimated to livestock and showing things and husbandry. So very, very good activity for them. Some ducks are kind of unique, you want to call it that way. Let me grab out, there's something called a runner duck. They stand really tall and upright. They're really kind of funny looking, but let me grab a couple of them here real quick. So these are called a runner duck. This particular color variety is called a fawn and white. So they're white with kind of fawn patches on them. And I don't have them down running right now, but if I did, you'd see how upright they stand. And as they grow, they're standing just almost straight up like this as they walk and run. So another very unique breed to have. Actually, here in a couple weeks, we'll be saving or putting aside, I should say, about 8 of these guys. We have our annual chicken festival coming up the first weekend of every October here at Cackle Hatchery. We have a duck race or runner duck race every fall at our festival. That's something fun to watch. Hopefully we'll have that again this year, but it's always the first Friday and first Saturday of October. So we use runner ducks in that race. So that's always a fun thing to do. If you're a beginner in raising ducks, so let's talk a little bit about 101 raising ducks and maybe a few pointers that might be helpful. So let's talk a little bit about that. So let's say you order some ducks and you're ordering them from Cackle Hatchery. You know, they might show up in a box that looks like this. You might see a QR code on there also. If you'll scan that, it'll take you to your order, and it will also bring up your information, more links to how to handle them and what did you order, and then also just links on how to take care of waterfowl and other helpful hints on raising poultry. So inside, you'd open up the box and, you know, you'd have some ducks in here. Not always. Sometimes we send extras in case there would be a loss in the on the travel. Things you might find in the box, you're going to find padding, little nesting padding that kind of keeps them kind of comfortable. You might see a heat pack in there. It's not guaranteed that you'll have a heat pack. Depends on how many birds or how many ducks are in the box, where it's going, the time of the year. A lot of indicators on whether or not we put a heat pack in or not. You might also see, you know, something like this. That's basically solid water that they can nibble on. It's got a little bit of vitamin electrolytes in there too. But all these ducks, they hatch out and basically they're good to go for 72 hours. So that's how and why we're able to ship them when they first hatch out. Inside their abdomen, down here, is full of yolk still from the egg. So they've got about 72 hours to get out of our facility, our hatchery, go through the mail and arrive at home. Now, when you get them at home, there's a lot of things you need to do when you first get them home. You should already have a brooder set up. Ideally, that brooder for the first couple of days I would put in the house just so you can make sure they get a good start and everything's okay. Or on a back porch. You can put them in a garage as long as it doesn't get overheated or too cold out there. But you want to put a heat lamp in the brooder on one side so they can get to like 100 degrees underneath the lamp. And then on the other side of the brooder, you want to have it to where it's like room temperature, 70 degrees or whatever. So when they're cold, they can run under the heat. When they're not, they can go back. We don't recommend a heat plate the first week or so. For mail order ducks, it's not really warm enough to get their bodies heated up, which they need the first 24 hours or 48 hours. So the water that you give them, make sure that you have a normal, like a little quart screw-on jar that they can get water at. You want to put really warm water in that for the first 24 hours because they're going to drink a lot of water. If you have cool water in there, it shocks their body and they don't have a way to heat up their body. So making sure you have warm water in that for the first 24 hours. And they don't have to have water all the time. You know, when I recommend when you get them in, give them warm water. About 30 minutes later, take it away. And then about an hour and a half from then, go give them some more hot water. Don't pour water in a big dish or a pond. They're going to get themselves wet and cold and chilled, and then you possibly are going to lose that duck. So the first couple of days, make sure you have the proper kind of water. Go down to your feed store, look for a poultry starter for ducks or waterfowl. It's got a few other ingredients in there that waterfowl really need to help with their tendons and legs and their fast growth. So that's important also. Bedding, you know, best thing really is some chopped straw, pine shavings. You don't want to use cedar shavings. There's some toxicity in it. Even pine shavings, if their water gets a lot of pine shavings in them, there's a lot of sap that leaks out of it too, so that's not ideal either. So put your water up a little bit so they're not throwing the pine shavings in the water. For me, I found chopped straw works out real well. Unfortunately, you're going to have to change that bedding out quite a bit. So, because they just drink a lot and poop a lot and they get everything damp. So clean it out really well, sprinkle some lime on the bottom, throw some more hay or shavings or straw back in your brooder setup. So the first couple of days, really recommend to have them in the house or on the back porch. So the temperature's kind of moderated so you can get them off to a good start. Ducks grow really, really fast. So what's going to happen is they're going to grow real fast. They're not going to need that heat now, and they're going to need a lot more space. So figuring out how to migrate them or acclimate them to a new coop or a barn or a shed or whatever, you need to kind of figure that out. Give them more space. Make sure that they have a windbreak or a weather break too, whatever that might be. You want to keep them away from the pond or your little kid's swimming pool for a while. Around 6 weeks, 8 weeks, they'll have enough of their mature feathers coming in to where they can go out on that and not get waterlogged and end up drowning or getting themselves internally too cool. So kind of stay away from that at the beginning, because if you let them in there too long, they can get waterlogged. Once they do get older and you decide, hey, I got a pond out here or a lake I want to put them on, they're going to love it, okay? One downside around where we live is we have snapping turtles. So snapping turtles will come up and grab their leg and pull them all the way down and drown them, and they'll tuck them away and they eat them later. Some people will build a little house or a moat, floating remote out on the middle and anchor it and have a little ramp where they could get up, and that kind of keeps them away from the foxes and the coyotes and other things. If you have several ducks, they do herd pretty good, so if you're trying to round them up, typically they're not going to break off. They're going to kind of stay together. The main thing, I guess, for once they get older is you just got to figure out how the predators are not going to get to them. Neighborhood dogs, if you have bears in your area, you have mink in your area, you have raccoons. I mean, there's a whole long list of predators, hawks, owls. So read up on that. We have some of that information on our website. So let's just talk a little bit about some of the different duck breeds briefly. So let's start out with maybe a blue Swedish duck. And you can see that it has as a duckling, it's kind of a bluish gray. And then it has kind of a white chest. We call it a teardrop. And for breeding, you want to try to get a good teardrop on the chest when they're mature. But this is what they look like when they're young. And they make really good pets. They are a somewhat heavier duck. And the males and females pretty much, there's a slight difference. You can tell a male from a female once they're fully feathered. But that's the blue Swedish duck here at Cackle Hatchery. Here is a Rouen duck. And the Rouen duck is, they look like the wild mallard, except for they're a bigger duck. They're the domesticated duck. They're not going to be able to fly away like a wild mallard, but they can glide fly a little bit, so they can get a running start and glide a little bit and fly. But you can hear him quacking away here. But they're a really pretty duck too. They make really good pets. The males have a really beautiful greenish sheen to their head. The duck wing is really colorful. So beautiful duck for anybody to have. Most of their eggs are kind of a whitish color, but they do lay some blue eggs, shell. So the shell will be a bluish tint. So that's kind of a unique thing on the Rouen. This is a runner duck is the breed. The color variety on this one is the fawn and white. So basically they're white with a fawn light tan color once they're grown. And this is a really unique duck because they're called runner ducks because they can run really fast. They don't waddle. They're not slow. Yeah, you don't waddle, you run, right? Yep. So when they're full grown, they stand upright, and really a funny looking duck, but they can run really, really well. So again, they don't waddle, they run. Here is another variety that we have, or breed. This is the Ancona duck, and they're white with a lot of different black patches on them. You can see the backside here. They have a lot of different coloration. Their leg and their web, you know, has a lot of coloration to it, as you can see there. And they make a really good, nice pet also. Somewhat heavy ducks, so, but they're good for a pet. And now they are a little bit more expensive than some of the other ducks. There's also a chocolate variety color-wise that we're working on too, that we might have at some point. But anyway, these are really beautiful ducks here. This one right here is called a black Cayuga, and they are solid black. And when they get older, they're solid black, but in the sunlight, they'll turn a turquoise green, and they have a real pretty sheen to them. And so they're a beautiful duck. And as you can see, you know, the feet are black, the body's all black. But this is the Cayuga, and it's another fun duck to have as a pet. Also, another interesting feature on them, their eggs that they lay look pretty dirty all the time. They will be also white, but a lot of them have a bloom on them that looks grayish and dark, and some of them almost come solid black and scratchy looking. So a very unique egg look or shell on the black Cayuga. This is a Welsh Harlequin. This is kind of the color pattern that you'll see on them. It varies a little bit as ducklings, but that's kind of the backside a little bit and the feet. Now this is a male, and they look a little bit different as ducklings than the females do, and we might cover that in another video. But this is your Welsh Harlequin duckling. So this is the white Pekin, and as ducklings they are really yellow, but their feathers come in real quick and they'll be all white feathers. And they are beautiful ducks. I don't know if you ever watched Friends. We mentioned it before, but they had a pet duck on there, and there's a white Pekin also. So that's your white Pekin duckling. Here's another Swedish breed in ducklings. This is the black Swede, and they're black all over, and they'll have what we call a teardrop or a beard or a bib up here that's kind of white. Right now it's yellow. But they are a beautiful duck also to have as a pet. And we like our black Swedish. So we got a good several flock sizes on these. They make really good durable pets. So what we have here are the silver Appleyard ducklings. They have a kind of the same pattern, a little bit different. I'll see if I can turn them around so you can see them a little bit. But these are, they're a more expensive duck here at Cackle Hatchery. They're becoming more common, but they are a good meat duck also. But they're very gentle and make really, really good pets. How do you identify if I have a male or a female? So let's say you bought straight run, you don't know if they're males or females. So once they're grown, there are a few things that you can, that are hints. Like when they're 6 months old, there's several breeds that you can tell a male and a female from. And for example, a Rouen will have a green head, and the females look totally different, but you gotta wait for about 5 to 6 months to get their adult feathers on. So I encourage you to go to our website, cacklehatchery.com, look at the males and the females, and as they grow up, you can see them kind of changing to that male color or that female color. Now there's some ducks though that you cannot tell. Their feathering on a male and a female look quite a bit the same. So it's, you really can't tell that way. So in those situations, you might look at their tail. On a male, you will see a little curl, and that will be a male. If the back tail is kind of lays flat like this, that's going to be a female. But a male will have one little feather curl up, half curl right there, and that'll be a male. Another thing to do is maybe listen to their sound. A female will have a higher pitch quacking sound, and a male will have a lower pitch quacking sound. Now, I used to be good at this, but I'm not anymore. And I don't even know if I should try it here or not. But a male duck is more like quack, 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 quack. It's really low. And a female, we go quack, 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 quack. It'll be a higher pitched, a little bit quicker sound. So if you order gender ID'd male and female ducks from Cackle Hatchery, there are a few breeds that we can look at and tell if it's a male or female. The Welsh Harlequin, for example. But most of our ducks, we have to vent sex. So what is vent sexing? It means that we have to take their butt or their vent, and there's a special way of collapsing or prolapsing it out to see what's inside, because a duck will have a real penis, and it's a curly little appendage, but you gotta know how to feel for it and whatnot to get it out to confirm it is a male. And then with a female, of course, that appendage is not gonna be there. So sexing, if you're a good sexer and know what you're doing and got the right feel, to be pretty accurate. But like all sexing, it's not 100% guaranteed. Oh, by the way, maybe I ought to finish with a dad joke. So, why does a duck have a tail? To cover its quack. Hope you have a good day. It's Jeff at Cackle Hatchery.